The Mauryan Empire, ruled by the Mauryan dynasty, was a geographically extensive and powerful political and military empire in ancient India. Originating from the kingdom of Magadha in the Indo-Gangetic plains of modern Bihar, eastern Uttar Pradesh, and Bengal, the empire's capital city was at Pataliputra near modern Patna. The Mauryan Empire was the first major Indian empire and also the largest created by any Indian dynasty. Role of Chanakya in forming the Mauryan Empire. Slatus, according to several legends, Chanakya, also known as Kautilya, traveled to Magadha, a kingdom that was large, militarily powerful, and feared by its neighbors. But Chanakya was insulted by its king Dhanananda. Chanakya swore revenge and vowed to destroy the Nanda Empire. Chanakya encouraged Chandragupta Maurya and his army to take over the throne of Magadha. Using his intelligence network, Chandragupta gathered many young men from across Magadha and other provinces, men who were upset over the corrupt and oppressive rule of King Dhanananda, plus the resources necessary for his army to fight a long series of battles. Chanakya also wrote a book advocating a strong, centralized, authoritarian state, the Arthashastra. Status: the three great rulers of Mauryan Empire were Chandragupta Maurya, Bindusara, and King Ashoka. History does not have many records of Bindusara. Chandragupta Maurya founded the empire in 321 BCE after overthrowing the Nanda dynasty. He began rapidly expanding his power westward across central and western India. Local powers had been disrupted by the westward withdrawal of Alexander the Great and his Macedonian and Persian armies. By 316 BCE, the empire had fully occupied the northwestern India, defeating and conquering the satraps left by Alexander. At its zenith, the empire stretched to the northern natural boundaries of the Himalaya mountains and to the east into Assam. To the west, it reached beyond modern Pakistan and significant portions of Afghanistan, including the modern Herat and Kandahar provinces and Balochistan. Status: under Chandragupta, the Mauryan Empire conquered the Trans-Indus region, defeating its Macedonian rulers. Chandragupta then defeated the invasion led by Seleucus I, a Greek general from Alexander's army. Under Chandragupta and his successors, internal and external trade and agriculture and economic activities all thrived and expanded across India. Chandragupta created a single and efficient system of finance, administration, and security. Emperor Bindusara expanded the empire into India's central and southern regions, but it excluded a small portion of unexplored tribal and forested regions near Kalinga, India. King Ashoka. Considered to be one of India's greatest emperors, Ashoka expanded Chandragupta's empire to reign over a realm stretching from present day Afghanistan in the west to Bangladesh in the east. It covered the entire Indian subcontinent except for parts of present day Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala. Mauryan's capital was Pataliputra, with their provincial capitals at Takshila and Ujjain. Ashoka was famously known for embracing Buddhism due to remorse after his bloody conquest of Kalinga around 260 BCE. After the Kalinga War, the empire experienced a half century of peace and security under Ashoka. India was a prosperous and stable empire of great economic and military power. Its political and trade influence extended across Western and Central Asia into Europe. During that time, Mauryan India also enjoyed an era of social harmony, religious transformation, and expansion of learning and the sciences. Chandragupta Maurya's embrace of Jainism increased social and religious renewal and reform across his society. Ashoka's embrace of Buddhism was the foundation of social and political peace and non-violence across all of India. The era fostered the spread of Buddhist ideals into Sri Lanka, Southeast Asia, West Asia, and Mediterranean Europe. Decline of Mauryan Empire. However, the Mauryan Empire's fragmentation reveals the problems of actually maintaining an empire in a region as diverse as South Asia. Despite Chanakya's book, the Mauryan Empire depended less on institutions than on able rulers, the lack of which doomed it and led to increasing local rule. After Ashoka's death, his family continued to reign, but the empire began to break apart. Its decline began 50 years after Ashoka's rule ended, and it dissolved in 185 BCE with the rise of the Shunga dynasty in Magadha. The Mauryan Empire stands as one of the most significant periods in Indian history. The last of the Mauryas, Brihadratra, was assassinated by his commander in chief, a man named Pushyamitra, who went on to found the Shunga dynasty in 185 BCE. Slatus, the Mauryan rulers were great patrons of art and architecture, and the buildings and pillars of this period can be considered as some of the finest specimens of Indian art. Megasthenes, the Greek ethnographer and author of the word Indica, was considerably impressed by the Mauryan art. He gave a topographical account of Pataliputra, the capital of the Mauryan Empire, and described it as the greatest city in India. Chandragupta Maurya built many buildings, palaces, and monuments with wood, most of which perished with time. The greatest monument of his period was the old palace at the site of Kumrahar. Ashoka was the first Mauryan emperor who began to think in stone. The stonework of the Ashokan period was of a highly diversified order and comprised of lofty freestanding pillars, railings of the stupas, lion thrones, and other colossal figures. The foundation of the Buddhist school of architecture in India was laid during the reign of Ashoka when several rock cut caves, pillars, and stupas were built. The most celebrated of the Ashokan pillars is the one erected at Sarnath, the site of Buddha's first sermon, where he shared the Four Noble Truths. Currently, the pillar remains where it was originally sunk into the ground, but the capital is now on display at the Sarnath Museum. It is this pillar that was adopted as the national emblem of India.